Hello. Oh my goodness. It is episode 349 of the Keto Diet Podcast. Welcome, welcome. This is our last episode of the year. Oh, I hope you had a nice Christmas yesterday. Oh goodness. I love Christmas, and we're not entirely sure what we're doing this year. I'm recording this episode a couple weeks early so I can just not work as much during the holiday season. Well, we'll see how that goes. It's always that I have that intention and I end up working. So I hope you had a nice Christmas and you have some nice things planned until the new year. I always enjoy that time between Christmas and New Year's. It's so wonderful, and you're with friends and family and all your eating patterns are different. Maybe you're taking this time right now to just get outside, go for a walk, and just have some solo time. Good for you. That's fantastic. Today we're chatting about hormones and keto and what you need to know to really support your hormones on your ketogenic diet. This episode is with Dr. Anna Cabeca. You guys can find links to her many resources in the show notes. Her website is drAnnaCabeca.com. She has products, she has resources, she has macro calculators and quizzes, and oh my goodness, it is just so good. Her website is so incredibly beautiful. I love it. So again, it's drAnnaCabeca.com. She does great work. I love a lot of her products. So without further ado, let's cut over to today's episode. Hey, I'm Leanne Vogel, and you're listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. I've put together a free 21-page guide on achieving weight loss on your keto diet if nothing is working, as a little thank you for being here today. Grab your free guide at ketoforwomen.com to get the steps you need to overcome the hurdles standing in your way. Hey, Dr. Anna, how are you?
I am so good, Leanne. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got to chat again. It's always a blast talking, and I always learn so much from you. So thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, I appreciate this.
Oh, cool. Okay. So the first thing I like to ask all of our guests is, what does keto mean to you?
Keto means, for me, I focus on ketosis. I focus on energized enlightenment. That's what I focus on when I think ketosis: burning fat for fuel, having mental clarity, and really revving up our engine so that we function at a high performance level. And especially as women, as we get older, the lack of brain clarity, at least for me, I don't know if anyone listening has ever experienced some brain fog, some memory lapses, anything like that, is one of the most devastating issues we deal with as women. It causes, us to lose some of our confidence and well, what the heck is going on? Plus it drives in a fear factor. And so that brings in this concept of it's just going to get worse from here. But knowing what we know about ketosis and that we can use ketones for fuel for the brain, it just makes it, and it just changes that dynamic completely. And it's completely reversible. We can get that clarity. So for me, when I think keto, I just think total mental clarity, energized enlightenment, bright burning energy.
Amazing. Beautiful answer. And there's a lot of, and I think it's definitely changing, but there are a lot of misconceptions around keto actually being horrible for women's hormones and that they should never, ever do it. Thoughts?
Well, great point. And that's what, and I was in that camp, honestly. Leanne, we've had this conversation. I mean, I was in that camp. I was oh my gosh, as a OBGYN, as a practitioner, seeing patients and especially clients who've had seizure disorders, were on epileptic meds. I'm look, we got to get you to do ketosis, get you into ketosis, and let's work on this. But every time I tried to do it, let alone try to have my perimenopausal woman do it, they would be man, I just don't like myself. And I'm I'm feeling keto crazy. Right? I felt it was, it caused keto craziness. My neurotransmitters were upset. And then it came to that point where in my discovery mode, that at 48 hitting this menopause, essentially really for the second time, because I was diagnosed menopausal at age 38, premature ovarian failure, permanent irreversible infertility, and was told I would never be able to have another child. And that was it. I failed. My ovaries didn't respond to the highest doses of injectable medications. I was written off as ovarian failure, as premature menopause at 38. So that's when I learned, I worked to reverse it through many of the things that I teach as a functional medicine provider: detoxification and getting alkaline, right? And so here at 40, and that worked, I mean, I lost 80 pounds. I was feeling, just tremendously better. 48 creeps up, and the same thing that's happened to so many patients happened to me. All of a sudden, you're gaining 5 pounds, and then it's 10 pounds, and then it's 15 pounds. And then like, oh my God, it's going to keep creeping up. And if anyone's lost weight and you start creeping up on that scale, it's terrifying. And so I was like, wait a second, I got to do, I'm not doing anything different. This is what my patients would say to me. I'm not doing anything different, Dr. Anna, but my weight keeps creeping up on the scale. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening to me. I'm like, first I was really skeptical when my patients would say that. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. You're just not going out as much. You're more sedentary. You're not doing blah, blah. I know it was absolutely the truth. Despite not doing anything different, the weight kept coming up. So I'm like, well, let me revisit this ketogenic thing. I mean, I can do cranky to lose some weight for a little bit, right? And I was like, okay, well, what is going on here? Because definitely felt my hormones balance shift out. So that's when I started checking my urine, and I noted how acidic my urine had become. And so I started getting more of the alkalinizing vegetables like kale and collards and chard and, just all the cruciferous vegetables that are so important for female hormone detoxification, and measuring to see how my body was responding by checking my urine. I'm like, test, don't guess kind of person. What gets measured gets managed. Those are two of my philosophies. So I'm like, okay, well, what's really working for me? So as I recognized getting into ketosis for me meant huge amounts of acidity. I had to reverse that with getting alkaline and then add in the ketosis. And that just created exactly what I call energized enlightenment, like the boom factor, like, aha, wow, like life is good. And honestly, a sense of peace and grounded and centeredness. It's ideal physiology for us as women, absolutely ideal physiology for us as women. And I believe necessary at least 50 to 75% of the time in the menopause, in the post-menopause, because our hormones have shifted. Estrogen has declined, and estrogen is necessary for gluconeogenesis in the brain, for our brain to use either to glucose as fuel. So we use either glucose as fuel in the brain, or we use ketones. Well, using glucose, having that continuously circulating in our system, especially post-menopause, increases insulin resistance, increases metabolic syndrome, increases heart disease, and hot flashes, and the list, the cancer, dementia, and the list goes on, right? We call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. So we want to really restrict circulating glucose. Not, I think metabolic flexibility is probably because I'm a glutton, but like I don't villainize really any food. And I think metabolic flexibility is good. So I'm like all in for periodic feasting. So don't get me wrong. I'm not like militant, never have carbs. And low glycemic alkalinizing carbs are absolutely necessary. Keeping that in balance with ketosis, a ketogenic plan and program, honestly is ideal. Leanne, what do you think?
Yep.
That's why we're here, right?
100% yes. Like everything you just said, yes. In these crazy times we're in, stress and anxiety are at an all-time high. I wonder if everyone in every generation has said that. While there are many great natural supplements to support anxiety and stress, the one that's helped me the most is CBD oil. CBD has tons of other benefits as well, such as sleep support, clearing acne, reducing inflammation, and so much more. By now, everyone's heard of CBD oil. While some people swear by it, other people have not seen the results that they were hoping for, and this bums me out big time. That's where Eaton Hemp comes in. Their unfiltered USDA certified organic full spectrum CBD oil is minimally processed and infused in their own hemp seed oil, giving you the full entourage effect, maximum absorption, potency, effectiveness, which means results. Whether you place the tincture under your tongue or use the salve on sore muscles, that's my personal favorite. CBD can and should work for you. And if it's not, you're not using the right product. Not only does Eaton provide one of the cleanest CBD products on the market today, but they pride themselves on transparency. Eaton Hemp is farmer owned and strongly believes in whole plant nutrition. That's why they leave the CBD unfiltered so all the elements of the hemp plant can work in unison. Eaton Hemp is so confident in the results that their CBD will give you that they offer a full 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't satisfied with their product, they're going to refund you with no questions asked. As a special podcast-only offer, you can save 25% on all Eaton Hemp products and still get your full money-back guarantee. Head on over to eatonhemp.com/keto diet. Use a code Keto Diet at checkout. Again, that's eatonhemp.com/keto diet and use the code Keto Diet for 25% off. Now, you did mention alkalinity. You were testing your urine acidity. There's a lot of misconception around that. Can we dig a little bit deeper? Because I think it was around this time last year, I did an interview with you for Happy Keto Body, and you were talking about acidity, alkalinity. And I was like, really though? Like, come on, is that really accurate? And your body wants to maintain a pretty level amount of alkalinity. Like, is this really real? And then I did a bunch of research. Turns out you were right. And I adjusted how I taught this. But can we talk a little bit more about that and why that's important? Because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in keto where there's the carnivore thing happening and people are eating all the meat and all the, even just muscle meat. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would just really have to question that long term. And then here again, men are different from women. Men can definitely do keto better than women, right? But women do keto alkaline. That's what we need to go, or keto green is how I call it. I call it in my book. And I think it's so important that you bring this up because, we know men are different than women, right? No big surprise there. So why can women not eat like men? We're just not designed to. We haven't evolved that way. Our hormones are different. Men are predominantly testosterone. They're catabolic anyway, right? They're constantly rebuilding. They're anabolic anyway. They're anabolic anyway. So they're constantly rebuilding. And testosterone and DHEA are catabolic hormones. So we need to think about that as, they've got high levels of that. So they're constantly designed to rebuild. Women, we don't have those high levels of testosterone and DHEA as a rule, a fraction compared to men. So there's other physiological differences, but that's one big one. And so the alkaline myth, as it's been called, right? I've heard that terminology and I'm like, we're not talking about blood pH. Blood pH is so, and this is arterial blood pH, like blood gas pH, right? This is arterial blood pH, not even venous blood pH. Our arterial blood pH is so highly controlled. That's homeostasis. That's how we live. Our body is designed to keep our blood pH approximately at 7.4, a little above, little below. Man, we are sick as dogs. It's like our temperature, 98.6. We go up to, my daughter was at 99 yesterday. She's like, Mommy, I feel so bad. I'm like, I know, it just feels so bad, right? Our body is designed to keep us in a homeostatic state and peace, right? So how are we going to do that? And this is where it blows my mind that the alkaline myth people don't get this. How are we keeping our blood arterial pH so alkaline, right? 7.4 is alkaline, above 7 is alkaline, below 7 is acidic. So how is our body able to do that if we don't give it the nutrients to do that? Bone, muscle, collagen, cartilage. We are teeth, people losing, teeth on strict ketogenic programs. As same thing with, get me started on bisphosphonates for women with osteoporosis, same thing, right? So we can't do that. We got to know there's a balance. Like, how do we support the yin and yang, right? How do we support this system? And so we're not speaking about blood pH, but really recognizing how are we keeping our blood pH so stable? That just makes perfect sense. Now, there's research. There is plenty of research over time. And the one article that I found, which was my aha moment, putting alkalinity with ketosis, even though I've been like a big alkaline gal in watching my patients get hormonally balanced through the decades, since 1990. So when, that that concept is that urine pH, and the research shows there's many scientific studies that looked at urine pH, and alkaline urine pH is associated with better longevity, better quality of life, lower metabolic syndrome. So that means decreased diabetes, decreased hypertension, decreased heart disease. So if we can do things through nourishing our body, through our diet and our lifestyle, because it's only 25% diet, 75% lifestyle. So if we can nourish our body in those ways to maintain an alkaline urinary pH, I mean, we know, and we're measuring it. And then I created the little urine test strips to measure urine pH and ketones, because let's put it all on one thing. Let's not have to use too many different things. I'm kind of lazy that way. So measure, and you're seeing that you're getting alkaline and you're feeling better, and you know, well, man, I just had a fight with my husband and I didn't do anything different and I'm totally acidic. Well, big surprise, you just poured out a bunch of hormones to handle that angst. And the hormones need nutrients, right? Need minerals, need enzymes, need cofactors, all that they have to get from somewhere. So if we are able to maintain that urinary pH and measure it, and, that makes a big difference. And there's plenty of research to look at that. And salivary pH is good, but I've just found that too variable. And plus, I'm going to look at urine ketones for the most part and urinary pH. And so I just test at one time, pee on my keto pH urine test strips, and an easy way to really how am I doing? And I'm so happy when it's red and green. It's like Christmas.
Who doesn't love Christmas?
I know, right?
Remember that time I had the guys on from Formula episode 301 where we talked about our experiences with ADD and ADHD and how big a game changer nootropics have been for us? If you're struggling with your brain, difficulty focusing, unpredictable energy dips, quick to get distracted, you may benefit big time from taking nootropics as we have. My favorite nootropics brand, Formula, has just changed their name to Thesis, and they're offering 15% off to listeners of the podcast. Now, you might be wondering, Leanne, what's a nootropic? Well, they're nutrients proven to improve brain performance. Some call them cognitive enhancers or smart drugs, quote unquote. With nootropics, I've boosted my focus, energy, attention span, concentration for long periods of time, getting distracted much less frequently. I'm far more productive. I find myself procrastinating and putting things off less. I've been testing nootropics, and for the past year, I've been using Thesis exclusively. You can visit their website, takethesis.com. You'll take a short assessment, and based on their data set, you'll be recommended 4 nootropic variations to test in your first month. You can then schedule a time to speak with a nootropics coach from their team anytime to help you find the optimal formulations for your brain chemistry. Then they will customize your orders with the formulations that work best for your goals and your physiology. Go to takethesis.com and use the code KETO for 15% off. Again, that's takethesis.com with the code KETO. And so when we're talking about hormone imbalance, and I mean, there's so many different ones, but what do you find women struggle with the most when it comes to hormone imbalance? What are the mega hitters?
Yeah, I would say the mega hitters, especially in the from age 35 on, is the estrogen dominance, the low, and really, I don't even like that term, but I'm not going to get into that in long detail. I will spare your audience. But progesterone deficiency, the natural decline of progesterone, because you can have low estrogen and still be estrogen dominant because of recirculating estrogen and toxic endocrine disruptors and all of those things. So that can make a difference, and we can become very estrogen dominant in other ways than just what our body is producing as far as estrogen goes. So that's important to recognize. What we know is that when our ovaries are naturally declining in production, we get these symptoms, irritability, PMS, hate your husband symptoms that are 2 weeks out of the month. That's a sign of hormone imbalance versus, that you really do hate your husband, although I'm sure he's to blame in some way.
Always.
But, physiology drives behavior. So we have to understand that. And the other things that are happening, as a gynecologist, the disconnection, the, being stressed and burnout, that's right there with it, because progesterone is our mother hormone, and we can really deplete progesterone at any age. We're dealing with just even, everyday life stressors that can be pretty powerful. And it's, in my book and in the Hormone Fix and in my programs, I talk about how we really have to enhance our physiology through, mindset and certain tools that I've come across and developed along the way to really help us create that peace within that surpasses all understanding. And that's really valuable. But that progesterone deficiency causing those perimenopausal symptoms that we really hate, including just not feeling like my loving, caring, sane self. I mean, it totally felt like, who was this monster that showed up today? Why did I react like that? And I really, I'm 52 years old with a 10-year-old, Leanne. And you met my 3 other daughters when we were at KetoCon last year. My 3 oldest ones, so 3 in college and a 10-year-old. So I've got to keep sane. It's really like, selfish that I develop all these programs too, by the way.
It's so true. It's so true. The work feeds your own interest because you need help.
Yes. So that's a big thing. And there are other symptoms that we don't really associate with hormone imbalance that drive people to medicate, and irritability, PMS, mood swings, depression, sadness, lack of motivation, fatigue, and whether we're medicating with caffeine or what else we're medicating with. And then there's the other more serious symptoms like heart palpitations. That can be hormone imbalance. That can be nutrient insufficiency. But what happens? We get beta blockers. What do beta blockers cause? Insulin resistance, more circulating glucose. And that's just sending us downhill. And so you have that. And, the list goes on from there, and not to mention surgeries. And as a physician, I will tell you that before I started understanding the functional medicine aspects and really researching for my own health and the health of my patients, I was a solo practitioner. So it was like I had to find the answers. And I was doing, honestly, 2 to 3 surgeries a week as I started working with detox and bioidentical hormones, bioidentical progesterone, DHEA, my Mighty Maca green supplementation, bringing that in. I went from doing 2 to 3 surgeries a week to 2 to 3 a year. 2 to 3 a year. It's a huge difference. We can restore hormonal balance. I recognize that the uterus, especially with women, we go through irregular bleeding, spotting, cramping, pain. Man, I can knock out those symptoms. I can knock out those symptoms and you can still keep your uterus, because the uterus is an innocent bystander of the angry family that is attacking it. And that's a family of hormones.
I really hope you're enjoying today's episode. I'd love to see where you're listening from. You can snap a pic and tag me at Leanne Vogel, or leave a review for the show on your favorite podcast player. It helps me out tremendously. Okay, back to the good stuff. Yeah. And touching on bioidenticals really quick, when I'm on tour, especially, and I start talking about hormones, a lot of women say that they're scared to take hormones or they're terrified of bioidenticals. Can we talk about that a little bit so that women understand that they're maybe not the scary beasts that they've been made out to be?
Yeah. And I think this is where we, where I really want to emphasize where nature wins, right? Nature wins. Nature always wins. So bioidentical is the preferred choice. There's no other option for me. And that's what I learned to customize through the art, with the practice of medicine, the art of medicine is how do we customize individually? And now work to help women learn to customize for themselves, because we have bioidentical progesterone, and I created because, like you, I'm very particular, right? It has to be clean and good products. So I created my Pure Balance PPR cream, which has some progesterone and pregnenolone, and it's a balancing hormone combination, including some peptides in there for their anti-aging ability. I'm okay, everything for me is dual purpose. So let's add that in if we're putting a cream on, And so, so the Pure Balance progesterone cream with bioidentical progesterone and bioidentical pregnenolone that now I've been using in my practice for 10 years, and just this year reformulated to add some peptides in it. And so I can tell you that either through, using this type of over-the-counter option and or being prescribed bioidentical progesterone appropriately at higher doses when needed and using it cyclically, I have seen people be able to keep their uterus. I've seen breast cyst and breast diseases resolve. I've seen relationships improve, mood swings, depression improve, if not resolve completely. I've seen decrease in lower extremity edema as well as help with weight balance. And one other really big one is better night's sleep so that your body restores itself. And you've got, progesterone breaks down orally too to allopregnanolone, which is necessary for GABA production. And so that's the hormone of awe and relaxation. So as progesterone, bioidentical progesterone is a natural diuretic, is a natural sedative, is a natural anxiolytic, a natural anxiety reducing hormone. So yes. And as our ovaries decrease, it's the ovulation phase, right? As we produce less and less eggs, as we become in the perimenopause to menopause, we're producing less progesterone because that's where it's primarily needed. But add that on top of raising a family, work stresses, and progesterone is used to make cortisol, and then we shut down a lot more. So adding it back is, for me, essential. And that's one of the things that I recommend. Also, because we can, and I use a transdermal cream that I created, my moisturizing balancing cream, because sometimes we need a little more and sometimes we need a little less. If all is good, I'm on vacation, it's rosy. I mean, what do I need? But if, I'm like in the middle of book launch, for instance, I might need it twice a day, let's figure that out, right? And I think that's really, so those are aspects. If we lived in the Amazon, Leanne, and we were living from nature and we picked food for the day, I don't think we would need hormones, but I don't live that way. And sadly, I try to do at least a vacation a week. That's very, a vacation a year. That's
like a vacation a week.
I know that's a wish list there. At least a vacation day a week, right? But at least a vacation a year where I'm remote, really immersed in nature. So, but, we really do need to think every week, can I do a 2-hour hike in nature? Can I get out, for 4 hours on a stand-up paddleboard? Oh my gosh, that just changes your physiology right there.
Yep. And that's why I live nomadically.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's crazy. I haven't needed as much progesterone. I am off cortisol completely. I don't take DHEA anymore. So it's been really cool to see that transition of just getting into nature, being closer to Mother Nature, how little I need. So yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Yeah. And it's good discernment because number one, you're living by your design. And number two, you're discerning. So you've got such clarity. And that's what getting in ketosis really helps us with, that clarity, the ability to say this resonates truth for me and this doesn't. Because when we're high carb, high sugar, high inflammation, it's like that, that just dulls it out completely. I'm thinking, because one day my daughter came home and she had this red mark on her hand. I'm like, what happened? She goes, oh, they just did that eraser thing. Did you remember that in school? Like they would rub an eraser on your hand and it just essentially okay, say when you give. And then all of a sudden, you're like, it gives, and it's like, okay, these rubs, it's a horrible thing. I'm like, you never let anyone touch you like that again. You know what I mean? It was a good opening for a discussion, but yeah, just all of it, doesn't hurt, it hurts. And so, okay, well, what if we discern very early, look, what, this isn't good for me. And that's what we need to do.
Totally. So your book launches next week and tell us more about it. What is it called? What was the passion behind it?
Oh my gosh. No, absolutely. So excited about it. It's called The Hormone Fix, and it is burn fat naturally, boost energy, sleep better, and stop hot flashes the keto green way, because I want to stop the suffering, just like I'm on a mission to do that, just like you are, Leanne. And, we don't want people to suffer like what we've suffered, and what we've gone through. And God use us for, helping others, and that's okay. And so in this book design, I've got my keto colors and my alkalinity pH colors down here. So also it's kind of just a very comprehensive book looking at what our hormones are, what they say to, what they can be symptoms of in our body, as well as a 10-day keto green quick start detox to really help push that hormonal that balance so that our hormones are no longer imbalanced, at least really get a head start on that. And then plus a 21-day menu too, to just really keep that going. So with some good recipes that combine both the concepts of ketosis and alkalinity in a very holistic way, and detoxing. The ingredients are chosen to help support our detox pathways, methylation, sulfation, glucuronidation. And I think that's part of the reason it works so well so quickly. And then, of course, a good chapter on vaginal health, as well as stress, cortisol, and the oxytocin connection. So many aspects of my work over the last 20 years, personally and professionally, I've put into this. And it's a great read. And it's easy to follow. And I'm super excited about it. So I definitely am so excited for you to share this with your audience.
Yeah. And I think what's really beautiful and why I love your work is because it's not just about eating keto. It's all these little pieces that add up to designing the life that you want and balancing the things that you need. When you were writing this book, I don't know if you did this too, but for me, I definitely did and have for all my books. I kept a specific type of person in mind while I was writing it. Did you do the same thing? And who are you writing this book for? Who do you want to purchase this book?
I would tell you that's really a great thought, and I hadn't thought about that, Leanne. But it comes up loud and clear that I wrote it for my mother. And I wrote it for my mother, who at age 52, the same age I am at now, had heart disease and actually was undergoing her cardiac bypass surgery. I was 16 years old. She was 52, and she underwent heart surgery and bypass surgery. And she lived another 15 years. That was it. And she's missed all her grandkids. She would have loved them. She struggled for, a decade before she passed away. And I don't want any woman to struggle. I saw how, she was on 11 medications at the time she died. I don't want any woman to suffer in their relationship, in their health, to give away the power that they have over their own body to heal itself through optimizing lifestyle choices. Because, we have worked hard, we have loved hard, and we will continue to do so. We need to reap the benefits of this time. I have seen too many women suffer. And so that's really who I write it for.
So beautiful. You have me speechless because you could just tell how much passion just went into that answer of just wanting to help. Okay. So where can people find your book, your practice, your website, all the things? Lay it on us.
So just come to dranna.com. So DRANNA.com. Very easy. And we'll have directions from there.
Amazing. Perfect. And we'll include that link in the show notes, including a link to your book. Dr. Anna, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you as always, Leanne.
Thanks for listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. Join us again in a couple of days to discover more Keto for Women secrets for your fat-fueled life. Music for the Keto Diet Podcast provided by Yechi. Follow Jacob on Instagram at Yechi_official and on Spotify as Yechi. That's YECHI. The Keto Diet Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Keto Diet Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representations or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.